When Sarah Chun found the impossible, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been humanity's frontier of dreams and desperation. Sarah Chun wiped the sweat from her brow as she guided her maintenance pod through the maze of floating rocks, each one a potential fortune or grave, depending on how you approached it. At 28, she had spent the last 6 years fixing mining equipment on Station Omega-7, a remote outpost that processed rare minerals from the asteroid field. Her hands moved with practiced precision over the pod's controls, navigating between chunks of space debris that ranged from pebbles to mountain-sized behemoths. The morning's work order was routine. Investigate a mining drone that had stopped responding near Sector 7 Alpha. Sarah preferred these solo missions. Out here, surrounded by the infinite black of space and the ancient dance of celestial bodies, she could think clearly without the constant chatter of her colleagues. The drone's last known position appeared on her scanner as a blinking red dot. As Sarah approached, something caught her eye that made her heart skip. The drone was there, all right, but it wasn't alone. Partially buried in the shadow of a massive asteroid was something that definitely wasn't human-made. Sarah's breath fogged. The inside of her helmet as she stared at the alien vessel. It was roughly the size of a small transport ship, but its design was unlike anything in human technology databases. The hull seemed to flow like liquid metal frozen in time, with no visible seams or joints. Strange symbols pulsed weakly along, its surface fading in and out like a dying heartbeat. She activated her communication array, then hesitated. Standard protocol demanded she report any xenoarchaeological discoveries immediately to Earth Command. But something held her back. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the engineer's instinct that told her this was bigger than bureaucracy could handle. Sarah maneuvered her pod closer, running passive scans. The vessel showed no signs of active power systems, but her instruments detected unusual energy signatures emanating from what appeared to be the engine compartment. The readings were impossible according to known physics. The energy output suggested a power source, more efficient than anything humanity had achieved. After securing her pod to the asteroid's surface, Sarah donned her exploration gear and approached the alien ship on foot. The vessel's hull was warm to the touch, even in the freezing vacuum of space. As she ran her gloved hands along the surface, looking for an entry point, a section of the hull suddenly became transparent, revealing an airlock-like chamber beyond. Sarah's training screamed at her to retreat, call for backup, follow protocol. Instead, she stepped through the opening. The hull sealed behind her with a sound she felt more than heard. An atmosphere flooded the chamber. Her suit's sensors confirmed the air was breathable, though rich in compounds unknown to human science. Interior of the ship was a marvel of alien engineering. Corridors curved in impossible ways, and the walls themselves seemed to provide illumination without any visible light sources. Sarah followed the main passage toward what her handheld scanner indicated was the largest energy source aboard the vessel. The engine room took her breath away. The chamber was vast, far larger than the ship's external dimensions should have allowed. At its center stood a device that defied description. It wasn't built so much as grown, with crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light, connected by conduits that seemed to be made of solidified energy. The entire assembly hummed with power that Sarah could feel in her bones. As she approached the engine, her scanner went wild. The energy readings were off the charts, but more disturbing was what the device seemed to be doing. According to her instruments, it was pulling energy from somewhere else, somewhere that didn't exist in normal spacetime. The implications made her head spin. Sarah reached out to touch one of the crystalline components, then pulled her hand back. But as she hesitated, the engine's humming changed pitch, almost as if it were responding to her presence. The crystal she had almost touched began glowing brighter, and symbols appeared in the air above it, symbols that somehow she could read. Neural pattern recognized, a symbol said. Welcome, Sarah Chun. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart racing. How could an alien device know her name? How could it display text in English? As she stared at the floating symbols, they changed, displaying new information that made her blood run cold. Temporal displacement successful. Message received from coordinates. Earth, year 2157. Source, Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief Engineer, Terran. Defense Initiative. The chamber suddenly filled with a new sound, a weak voice speaking in accented English. Sarah spun around to find an alien figure emerging from what she had thought was part of the wall. The being was tall and slender, with 4 arms and skin that shifted between silver and blue. Its large eyes focused on her with obvious effort. You came, the alien said, its voice barely above a whisper. The calculations were correct. You are here. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to the emergency beacon on her belt, but she didn't activate it. Who are you? How do you know my name? The alien's form wavered, as if it were struggling to maintain consciousness. I am Zethkar of the Veilten Collective. I have been waiting for you, Sarah Chun. Waiting for 73 years. That's impossible. I'm only 28 years old. Zethkar's expression might have been a smile if the being had been human. Time is more flexible than your species believes. The engine you see before you is built by your people, by you, in a future that has not yet come to pass. Sarah looked back at the impossible device. That's not human technology. Not yet, Zethkar agreed, but it will be. In 2157, Dr. Sarah Chun will create the first human resonance engine, a device that draws power from the quantum foam that underlies all reality. It will revolutionize your civilization and make you a force to be reckoned with among the stars. The alien's words hit Sarah like a physical blow. You're talking about me. You're saying I'm going to invent this thing? More than invent it. You will perfect it, weaponize it, and use it to defend your species against the hegemony of United Worlds. But the cost will be terrible. Sarah felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders like a lead blanket. What cost? Zethkar's form flickered again, and Sarah realized the being was dying. The hegemony fears human potential. They have seen what your species becomes when pushed to the edge. In the timeline I come from, they launched a preemptive war against Earth in 2156. Billions died before your future self completed the resonance engine project. The alien gestured toward the device with one of its 4 arms. This engine is not just a power source. It is a message sent back through time by the Dr. Sarah Chun who watched her world burn. She sacrificed herself to send it here, to this moment, hoping to change the future. Sarah's mind reeled. Change it how? By giving you a head start. With this engine to study, to reverse engineer, you can develop the technology decades earlier. Humanity can be ready when the hegemony comes. The war can be prevented, or at least won with far less loss of life. Sarah stared at the alien device, understanding finally dawning. The engine responds to me because it was built by me. It recognizes my neural patterns, my genetic signature, precisely. It will only function for you, or for someone genetically related to you. It is your gift to your species, and your burden to bear. Zethkar's voice was growing weaker. I volunteered to carry this message because my people believe in the potential for peace between species. The Veilten have always been advocates for cooperation rather than conquest. We have seen what humanity becomes when you are given the chance to grow. Sarah looked around the alien ship with new eyes. Your people built this vessel? We provided the temporal displacement technology. The engine itself is purely human, created by minds that think in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Your species. has a gift for finding solutions where others see only problems. The weight of the revelation settled over Sarah like a shroud. She was being asked to become someone she wasn't sure she could be, to take on a responsibility that could determine the fate of her entire species. The simple life she had known, fixing mining equipment in the asteroid belt, seemed like a dream from someone else's existence. "What if I can't do it?" she asked. "What if I'm not the person you think I am?" Zethkar's large eyes fixed on her with surprising intensity. "The fact that you are asking that question proves you are exactly the person we need. The Sarah Chun, who sent this engine back, was not born a hero. She became one because she was willing to make the hard choices when they needed to be made." The alien's form was fading now, becoming translucent. "The engine will teach you. It contains not just the power source, but the knowledge needed to understand it. Your future self included detailed schematics, theoretical frameworks, everything. You will need to begin the work." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. "How much time do I have?" "The Hegemony's scouts are already moving through this sector. They will detect the engine's activation signature soon. You have perhaps hours before they arrive to investigate." With those words, Zethkar finally succumbed to his injuries, his form dissolving into motes of light that faded away. Sarah stood alone in the alien ship, facing the most important decision of her life. The engine continued to hum, waiting for her choice. She approached the device slowly, her hand reaching out toward the central crystal. The moment her gloved fingers made contact, the engine blazed to life, and Sarah's mind was flooded with knowledge that was both alien and intimately familiar. She saw herself as she would become, older, scarred by loss and responsibility, but driven by an unshakable determination to protect her species. In that instant, she understood what she had to do. The weight of tomorrow's dreams, Sarah's consciousness, expanded as the resonance engine interfaced directly with her mind. The knowledge flooding her thoughts was overwhelming. Decades of research and development compressed into moments of searing revelation. She saw the theoretical framework that would lead to the engine's creation, the breakthrough moments that would occur in her future life, and the desperate circumstances that would drive her future self to send this device back through time. The engine's crystal core pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, and Sarah understood that this synchronization was deliberate. The device wasn't just responding to her genetic signature. It was learning from her neural patterns, adapting itself to work with her specific thought processes. It was, in the most literal sense, an extension of her future self. Through the connection, Sarah experienced flashes of the future that awaited her species. She saw great cities floating in the clouds of gas giants, human explorers making contact with dozens of alien civilizations, and technologies that seemed like magic, but were grounded in principles she was only beginning to understand. But she also saw the darkness that would come. Massive fleets of hegemony warships darkening Earth's skies, human colonies burning, and the desperate fight for survival that would forge her into the scientist warrior her species would need. The visions faded, leaving Sarah gasping and disoriented. The engine's humming had changed again, becoming more musical, almost welcoming. She realized that the device was now fully operational, drawing power from quantum fluctuations in the vacuum of space itself. The implications were staggering. With this technology, humanity could power their entire civilization without depleting a single natural resource. A new sound interrupted her thoughts, the proximity alarm from her maintenance pod. Sarah's blood ran cold as she checked her scanner. 3 ships were approaching fast, their configurations unlike anything in human databases. The Hegemony scouts had arrived. Sarah ran for the ship's bridge, her mind racing. She had perhaps minutes before the alien vessels arrived. The engine was too large to move, and she couldn't risk letting it fall into Hegemony hands. But she also couldn't destroy it. The knowledge it contained was humanity's only hope for survival. The bridge was another marvel of alien engineering, with controls that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Sarah placed her hands on what she hoped was the navigation console, and suddenly she understood the ship's capabilities. The Veiltan had built this vessel as more than just a transport. It was a mobile laboratory, designed to support long-term research missions. The hegemony ships were now visible through the bridge's transparent aluminum viewport. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels that moved with purpose. Sarah watched. As they began scanning the area, their sensor beams probing the asteroid field. It would only be moments before they detected the energy signature of the resonance engine that an idea formed in Sarah's mind, desperate but potentially brilliant. If she couldn't move the engine, maybe she could hide it. The ship's computers contained detailed information about human technology, circa 2080, the time period from which Sethkar had originated. Sarah quickly accessed the technical specifications for human mining equipment and began implementing her plan. Working with frantic efficiency, Sarah used the ship's fabrication systems to create a false hull around the resonance engine. To casual observation, it would appear to be an advanced but conventional fusion reactor. The real engine's energy signature would be masked by the decoy systems, and the quantum fluctuations would be redirected through hidden conduits. The hegemony ships were closing in, their formation suggesting they were preparing for a detailed scan of the area. Sarah activated the ship's cloaking systems, another piece of Veiltan technology that bent light around the vessel's hull. The ship wouldn't be invisible to close-range sensors, but it might escape casual detection. As the enemy vessels swept past her position, Sarah held her breath. One of the ships paused, its scanners focusing on the asteroid where her maintenance pod was still docked. She watched in horror as the alien vessel deployed what appeared to be boarding pods. Sarah realized she had made a critical error. Her pod's human technology signature would immediately identify her as a member of the species the hegemony was hunting. They would torture her for information about human capabilities, and eventually they would discover the engine. She had to act, moving quickly. Sarah activated the ship's communication systems and sent a coded message to her maintenance pod's emergency beacon. The message was simple: mechanical malfunction, reactor breach imminent, evacuating to emergency shelter in asteroid field. She then triggered the pod's self-destruct sequence, making it appear that she had been killed in an accident. The explosion was small but convincing. The hegemony ships registered the detonation and scanned the debris field, finding only the expected traces of human technology in organic matter. They seemed satisfied that any potential threat had been eliminated. As the alien ships moved away to continue their patrol, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. But the reprieve was temporary. The hegemony presence in this sector meant that the timeline was accelerating. The war her future self had fought to prevent was coming sooner than expected. Sarah turned back to the resonance engine, its crystalline structure now hidden behind the facade of conventional technology. She placed her hands on the console again, accessing the knowledge the device contained. What she found there made her heart sink. The engine contained not just the technical specifications for its construction, but also a detailed historical record of the events leading up to the war. According to the data, the hegemony's decision to attack humanity wasn't based solely on fear of human potential. It was a response to specific actions taken by human explorers and colonists, actions that wouldn't occur for decades yet. Sarah realized that her future self had sent back more than just a weapon. She had sent back a warning, a detailed account of mistakes that would lead to catastrophe. With this knowledge, humanity could avoid the provocations that would trigger the hegemony's aggressive response. But changing the timeline was a double-edged sword. Every alteration created new possibilities, new potential futures. Sarah found herself facing a paradox. If she successfully prevented the war, would she still become the scientist who invented the resonance engine? And if she didn't, would humanity be prepared for the even greater threats that the historical records hinted at? The weight of these questions pressed down on Sarah as she began to understand the true scope of her responsibility. She wasn't just being asked to invent a new technology. She was being asked to become the guardian of humanity's future, to make decisions that would affect the lives of billions of people across centuries. Sarah spent the next several hours absorbing the knowledge contained in the engine's databases. She learned about the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics that made the device possible, the engineering challenges that would need to be overcome, and the political and social implications of introducing such revolutionary technology to human civilization. Asterisk. As she studied, a plan began to form in her mind. She couldn't simply return to Earth with the engine and announce her discovery. The political and economic disruption would be catastrophic. Instead, she would need to carefully guide humanity's technological development, introducing concepts gradually and ensuring that the benefits were distributed in ways that strengthened rather than divided human civilization. The first step would be to establish a research facility in the asteroid belt, far from Earth's political machinations, but close enough to human supply lines. She would need to recruit a small team of brilliant but discreet scientists, people who could work on revolutionary concepts without attracting unwanted attention. Sarah also realized that she couldn't work alone. The hegemony's presence in human space meant that the timeline was already changing. She would need allies, both human and alien. The Veil 10 Collective had already proven their willingness to cooperate with humanity. Perhaps other species could be persuaded to join a coalition against hegemony aggression. As she made her plans, Sarah felt a strange sense of continuity with her future self. The woman who had sent the engine back through time had faced similar challenges, made similar decisions. The knowledge that Sarah was accessing wasn't just technical data. It was a conversation across time, one brilliant mind guiding another through the complexities of saving a species. The engine's humming shifted again, and Sarah realized that the device was responding to her thoughts, her decisions. It wasn't just a machine. It was a living testament to human ingenuity and determination. Her future self had poured not just knowledge into its creation, but hope. Sarah made her choice. She would accept the burden of humanity's future, not because she was certain she could carry it, but because she was the only one who could. The young woman who had come to repair a mining drone was gone, replaced by someone who understood the true meaning of responsibility. She began preparing for the journey ahead, knowing that every decision from now on would echo through the centuries. The war might still come, but humanity would be ready. And if the future could be changed for the better, she would be the one to change it. The resonance engine continued to hum, no longer a mystery, but a promise. Sarah smiled grimly as she began the work that would define the rest of her life. The future was waiting, and she had the power to shape it. As she worked, Sarah couldn't help but think about the courage it must have taken for her future self to sacrifice everything to send this message back through time. She was determined to prove worthy of that sacrifice, to become the person her species needed her to be. The stars watched silently as humanity's youngest guardian began her longest journey, carrying the hopes of billions in her hands and the wisdom of tomorrow in her heart.